Hi, my name is Ben Bylsma. I work at the Food Innovation Center, which is a part of Kalamazoo Valley Community College. We're here in our polyculture garden today on this beautiful fall day here in October. We're going to talk about what to do with your garden at the end of the year. One thing you got to consider is what are you going to do with your old plants here at the end of the year. Things you want to take into account are were the plants diseased or have something else wrong with them? Do they provide food or shelter for wildlife in your area? And also, what's the aesthetic that you need to maintain and where are they on your property? Here we have some marigolds. We're going to be leaving our marigolds through the fall. You can see the pollinators are still using. We have a honeybee right there who's so busy he doesn't even care that I'm here. And they also, the seeds will be available for eating later on. Over here we have some squash, and we've started tearing the squash plants out because they had a mildew on them and we don't want that to carry over to next year. We're also going to be leaving our pepper and okra plants because this is the back of the property. We don't have a lot of public come through this space in the winter time, and so for the dead stalks to remain there is not a problem for us. And by leaving it until the spring to pull it out, when we pull it out the roots will have rotted and we're not going to disturb the soil as much when we tear those plants out. Probably in around April is when we'll do it here. Another thing you want to be looking at in the fall is what weeds are still in your garden. You want to go through and you want to pull out anything that has seed on it that will drop before winter hits, because we don't want our one grass plants to turn into a couple hundred more. You also want to look for any perennial weeds that are just going to come back stronger than next year. Here we have a dandelion leaf, so I want to go and I want to make sure that I remove the whole root mass so that next year this doesn't come up and put up flowers in April and create a big mess for me next summer. Another thing you want to be thinking about in the fall is how are you going to protect your soil over the ground. You want to make sure that you're not having erosion, either from the wind or from the rain, washing your soil away. You want to protect your microbiome, all the different parts of life that are living in your soil and keeping it healthy. And you also want to prevent weed seeds that have already landed in your garden from germinating and causing you a problem next year. You have two good options. One is using mulch. You can use straw or leaves as mulch. You want to be careful with the leaves, which one you use. I would avoid using oak leaves. They don't break down very easily and they can change the chemistry of your soil, which isn't very good for your garden. Some options for cover crops which are good are we have oats growing here. If you plant them late enough in the year, they won't actually produce their seeds and the winter will kill them. Summer alfalfa is a good option. See, I have a list here of a couple other ones. Buckwheat, peas are also good options. You just want to make sure that what you use for a cover crop isn't going to become a weed for you in the future. We had one year we planted clover in one of our raised beds to use as a cover crop, and the clover overwintered, and it took us another full year of weeding to remove the clover that we have put in for the benefit of the soil. You want to consider what you're going to put in next when you're deciding whether to use a cover crop or a mulch. If it's something that's going to be transplants like a cabbage or a kale or a tomato or pepper, using a mulch is just fine because you can push it to the side, you can get to the soil and plant it in, and then the mulch will help protect the soil around the plant. But if you're going to direct seed something like arugula or cilantro or carrots, trying to direct seed into something with mulch is much more difficult. You can either in the spring remove all the mulch. Another option would be using one of those cover crops that will die over the winter so that in the spring you have a nice clean seed bed to work in to plant those direct seeded crops. If you're planning on doing a new garden in the spring, fall's a nice time to do some prep work for that as well. You want to remove the grass or sod or weeds or whatever it is that's in that space. One way to do it is to smother it out. You want to do that while things are still actively growing so that you kill the plant. If it's gone dormant already for the winter, it won't die until the spring. One option is laying down cardboard like we did here and then covering it up with wood chips. That will kill off the weeds and the grass that were growing underneath. You can also use a plastic drop cloth that you'd use for painting to smother it out, because that it will reduce the air and really compact it down. It also has a greenhouse effect, which if you're doing it in the summertime can cook the plants. Another option for preparing the space is actually digging the sod out. The best tool for using for that is a sharp garden spade. It's square and flat, and you will cut out a square. You can go underneath and pull the whole square out, and you can use that for building terrain into your garden. And if you do it in the fall, by the time spring comes around, the soil will have loosened from its roots, and you can shake them out, add the grass to your compost pile, and leave the soil there in your garden.